Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Robert. I am the founder of BalletScout, a professional dancer with Nevada Ballet Theater and a Penn State World Campus business major.
Hi, everyone. My name is Camille Kellums. I'm the marketing manager and a ballet advisor with the BalletScout. I grew up dancing in Southern California, then attended Indiana University for 4 years, and am currently a dancer with Nevada Ballet Theater as well.
Yeah, wonderful. So glad to have you. So at BalletScout, our mission is to connect dancers of all ages, levels, and abilities to opportunities that fuel their passion. We do this through providing opportunities in the form of our website, which is a vast database of auditions, training programs, and jobs. We provide educational opportunities like these seminars, and we also help facilitate connections by helping organizations market and recruit. So before we get started, we always like to start with this quote.
This is by SMU Dean and former New York City ballet dancer Silas Farley. When auditioning, show your joy and allow your love for your work to come through. As those leading auditions, we want to see your training, what you already know, and your curiosity, your willingness to learn something new. Remember that you are a unique person with unique gifts. No one dances like you. You can't dance like anyone else. Trust that your gifts will lead you and make a way for you on your own particular path.
So well said. Thank you, Silas. That worked out perfectly with the video timing too. I love that. Okay. So the first thing that we want to clarify is this isn't even really late season auditions. It's more like the second round of auditions. Companies are really just starting to figure out who's returning for the next year, who accepted the initial contract offers, who didn't, who might be retiring, all of that stuff. So it is actually a great time to continue auditioning. So our first question was, when is it appropriate to follow up? I was told I would receive an email by a certain date, and that has now passed. Should I follow up? And if so, when? Is there a best way to approach it? So the general contract offer timeline is contracts start to go out in March. A lot of companies will give their first offers around then. They'll also notify their current dancers if they're being re-engaged or not. By April, those dancers will reply with, I'm either retiring, I accept this offer or not, et cetera, et cetera. And so then they'll have a better idea of who is accepting those offers and what spots they have open. And they're not given to everyone all at once. So they'll give out a few offers, see what the responses are. And then if there's more spaces, they might hold more auditions or give them out to other people. So definitely follow up with them. Say you're still available. Say something you liked about the audition and something you liked about the company. We'll actually have an example of a good follow-up email that you can send later on in this seminar. So.
Yes, to reiterate the question, it is absolutely appropriate to follow up, especially if they said that you would hear by a certain date and that date has since passed. For summers, that is a great place for you to see if that's a way for you to get a contract. There are certain companies and schools where those are given strictly through the summer intensives. So late July and August are great times to follow up.
So yes, as Camille just said, summers are a great place for trainee second company offers. We recommend not entirely banking on them, but it is a pretty standard way to go. If you can have a backup, wonderful. But even if they don't work out over the summer, again, other summers are doing this and they're giving those offers towards the end of summer. If people don't accept those, they will have open spots. So you should absolutely follow up towards the end of July, August, even if you didn't go to those summer intensives. And remember to just don't get discouraged. Nothing is personal. You do have the drive, the talent, and the power to succeed as long as you keep doing it. A lot of it about auditions is being in the right place at the right time. So just keep it up. I know it's a grueling process, but you will all get there. So our next question is, can you give some specific examples on how to frame your follow-up? What kind of dialogue is best used to connect with someone there? Referencing specific materials, and who should you address communications toward? What is the best approach to help garner responses with any initial communication?
So we think that it's best to be quick and concise and try your best to make a connection at this organization. Do you know a dancer there? Do you know any of the teachers, repetitors, choreographers, the style that they dance, any of the rep that they're doing? Explain how you could fit with this organization. The dance world is so small that it's great to connect with dancers in that organization, even if it's through a friend of a friend. Find a way to put yourself into the image of that company. We also recommend referencing when you auditioned. Say something you liked about the audition, whether it was a teacher that you had, maybe you got to watch class from the company members, comment on that, and reinforce your availability and your commitment to the job. Say, hey, I'm still available in the fall, would be happy to work with you. And even if you're not available in the fall, to foster a future connection with maybe just a singular rep within that season if they're in need of supplemental dancers. Finally, email the company manager or the auditions email, whatever is provided to you.
Sometimes it will just be on the website, their general info email. So don't worry if you don't have a specific email.
Yes, the director's email, unless you have a previous correspondence with that director or a close communication and connection with them prior to this, we would not necessarily recommend trying to find that email for this communication.
If you do have it, great, use it, but otherwise, no worries, stay away from it. So here is a good example. Hello, this is Robert Fulton. I auditioned in January at the company class and spoke to you briefly after. I wanted to check in and let you know that I am still available for the fall. I really enjoyed your class. I trained in balancing growing up, and it was great to see the influences in the class. I feel like I could augment your company as a strong partner and really grow as an artist under your direction. I've attached my resume and photos below, but I'd be happy to provide more information or materials if you'd like. I hope to hear back from you soon. Kind regards, Robert Fulton. Attach resume and pictures. You can send that out via email to people if they would like a little template for that. And again, it's super easy. That took us 5 minutes to whip up. So don't think too hard into it. And again, you don't have to have a direct connection. Like if you have a teacher that danced with them, that's great to reference. Or if you've done rep that they've done, great to reference. But also it can be like, I just trained in this technique, or I really admire the repertoire that you're doing in the future, and I see myself doing that. So just try and include some sort of connection.
And this is something too that you can pretty much utilize with any follow-ups that you have. Of course, make sure to tailor it to the company. That's the worst thing ever is if you send it and you're sending it to, Kansas City Ballet and you said, hello, Oklahoma City Ballet. Yeah. Try your best to avoid that, but it's a great template to use going forward.
Yeah. So are open call auditions in April worth attending? Yes. As we just talked about, there's kind of a trickle down effect with the auditions and the offers given out. Some people will say no. Other people might be retiring. Directors will probably actually have a better idea in April of who is coming back. It is more like that second round. So they'll know how many spots they have open. This year also, we've seen some trends. There's been a lot of applicants at earlier auditions. So definitely worth following up. And those people might have already made decisions since they were really on the early audition train. So there might be even more spots open in April. There's also been some issues with trainees getting let go after the first year, which is very unfortunate. Hate to see that, but that also means there might be more spots open for a trainee program. So keep auditioning for that. Also, like dancers returning or not returning contracts later. And also many companies, especially contemporary companies, only start having their first auditions later in spring. So some of these April open calls might be the first auditions they're having too. So definitely worth it.
One thing to reiterate too is, like Robert said, these companies will have a clearer idea of exactly who will be returning and who will not be. That being said, that may also reiterate that they do not have spots open. And we'll address this question later on because someone did ask, how do you even know if companies have spots? And the best case scenario there is to try and find a dancer in that company and have a candid conversation with them if they think that there are even spots available.
So here's some more rapid fire questions. Perfect. How can you find out if there are even contracts to be had? The best way is just to ask dancers, reach out to them via social media, see what the vibes are in the company. Sometimes you'll be able to figure it out. It is really hard though. And definitely don't ask the actual company if there are contracts. That's just, they'll either say yes, or it's gonna look weird.
I feel like the dance community is really welcoming in this sense too. I think we're all trying to help each other out and have a clearer communication in regards to this. So if someone were to reach out to me on Instagram or something, I would want to tell them that, hey, save your money. Like, don't come this time, or no, it's looking like there are space is available.
Yep.
100%.
So are small company traineeships worth taking if it's the only offer for a 20-year-old during audition season? Knowing the stipend is minimal, but offered a scholarship. Yes, sometimes they can even be better. They can even be better because smaller company traineeships might get you more personalized training and a better chance of getting into the company itself instead of one of the big 30-person trainee programs. But make sure to be aware of what levels in that company are paid. So what's your ladder going to look like? Are you still going to have to go trainee, second company, apprentice company? Do people not even get paid until soloist at said company? So really look at that ladder of climbing up to a paid position. And also look at how long the company has been active. Sometimes brand new companies can be a bit volatile, not knocking them at all. Some can be great opportunities, but just be aware of that.
Another thing to note is if they have the roster of their dancers in their trainee or second company online, if they have a smaller group of dancers, I would say that's a better outlook from the outside looking in, because then there's more likely for you to go through the pipeline of that company. Whereas if it's a huge second company program, at the end of the day, there are only certain spots available, and that could even go to someone outside of the trainee program. You just never know.
So how do you get an apprenticeship after being a paid professional for a season and then going to a trainee program? Well, definitely highlight your professional experience, keep auditioning, and maybe try some smaller programs for a company position. But do know that you're not at a disadvantage at all for getting more training. We know this, so many people doing this. In fact, we have a friend who was at Sarasota Ballet as a company member, then went back to college, went back to Indiana University, graduated from there, and then is re-auditioning. So getting more training is only something to be proud of, not something that is diminishing.
And that's something that you can even format in the emails that you send with your materials, is if you feel like it's worth mentioning how you enjoyed your professional experience, and now with having a stronger base, you're ready to tackle on the professional world even better, so on and so forth.
Yep. That's great. So how can I best network for future audition seasons, and any financial advice or where to find extra funding to help pay for auditions? So networking is fun. That's what I love to do. It's as simple as just talking to people, making small talk. Really just say hello, ask how people are, especially as you get into these older program or more mature programs, trainee, second company, senior levels at summer intensives. You want to get to places a bit early, stay a bit after, and try and just say hi to the teacher so they remember you. And eventually you might even get an email and be able to reach out to them in the future if you're going somewhere. Now, with your current teachers and mentors, it's best to keep them in the loop of where you're auditioning. Find one that you really have worked extensively with and they'll support you, and ask them to be a reference. Don't ask them to reach out to companies right off the bat, but keep them in the loop. Say, hey, I'm auditioning here, or I got a response from this company. What do you think? And they might even be able to, behind your back, put in an extra word for you. That actually happened to both Camille and I. We just kept our teachers in the loop, and they ended up calling the places we were auditioning for and saying, hey, this person's a great option, without us even knowing until after. So it's worth keeping them all in the loop. We also recommend researching guests and teachers at places and just be able to ask them about their careers. If you have a master class with someone who's at New York City Ballet, be able to ask them, what's your favorite role? Or I really admired watching you in this. Can you tell me about that? Just getting those conversations going will really help the name retention for you, and, build a network for you in the future.
Some ways to save money, which is so difficult during audition season because it's just expensive. That's what it is. But group auditions can be a great way for you to be seen by multiple people at once. We were just at the National Master audition this year, and it was really inspiring to see how many companies were there. There were 20 companies there. All of them were actively looking for dancers. And that isn't always the case. It depends on the year, but that was really invigorating to see. video auditions, especially if they aren't requiring a fee with those, send your video audition everywhere that you can, which is so wonderful about this electronic age. Flight credit cards with rewards are a great option if you're looking to like amplify that, because then you could ultimately get some free flights in the future. Scholarship, financial aid auditions. I know for current dancers who are in an AGMA company, you often get your audition fee waived if you are auditioning for another AGMA company, which is great. You can even ask and see if the company can waive that audition fee, just out of the kindness of their heart.
Some companies do have like specific scholarship auditions, and also many will offer financial aid options. So it just doesn't hurt to reach out about that.
Carpooling, sharing hotel rooms, staying with friends in the city. This is another way not only to reconnect with these people, but also just to save a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And one more thing we want to harp on for networking is when you're emailing people, especially you're emailing the companies, just like the template we provided earlier, be super, super kind, because you don't know who's looking at that email. And the audition really starts from that first communication. They want to see that you're being professional, that you're being courteous, that you're someone that is good to work with. Our company manager at Nevada Ballet was actually telling us about this, how she's had people who have just been incredibly rude to her when they find out that they're not dealing directly with the artistic director, and they just pretty much immediately throw that email out. Like they don't even look at it. So
it seems funny to even have to bring that up, but we figured it's important to include because just treat everyone with the same respect and kindness that you would as if you were speaking to the director.
And additionally, as you are getting into trainee second company programs, the dancers should be the one doing the communications themselves without the parents. Once you're 18 and up, they should be handling all of the communications. So another one, my goal this year is to get an apprentice position, but currently I've been offered trainee for next year. You're already in a trainee program. Would you recommend staying where I am or switching trainee programs to the company I would like to get into apprentice of the next year? So first off, if you're doing your audition season and you get another paid job, take the job. I cannot harp on this enough. I was in a similar situation. I was a trainee at Ballet West. I had a second year, but I was doing auditions that year, and I actually got an offer from Nevada Ballet. And I was really tempted to stay at Ballet West for another year for a trainee, because, I thought I might have a shot at the second company, but I had a candid conversation with the director and the second company director, and they were nice enough to tell me like, no, you're most likely not going to get in. You should take this. And I'm so glad I did, because then I got the job, and then the pandemic hit, but I had just worked a week long enough to actually qualify for unemployment benefits. So it actually really saved me throughout that whole thing. So yeah, if you get a paid job, take the job. Next step is definitely have a candid conversation with the director. Now, you really have to analyze this, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, because they might not be able to fully tell you right away if they will want you. A lot of the times you'll get, we're very interested in you, but that is far from a guarantee. So keep that in mind as you are going through things. Now, take time to reflect if you are someone who is used in the productions and seems to fit in with the company. If you're being used for dancing roles a lot and they like putting you next to company members, you feel like you fit in, then yes, definitely stay. If not, then it might be worth the switch. Many professional dancers have done more than one trainee or second company programs. We know people who have done two, plenty of people. So it's totally okay to bounce side to side. Eventually, you just want to try and find the place where you know you can move up the ladder.
I think that's something that I would really like to harp on, is taking a second to see how you are fitting into that company, especially how they see you fitting into that company. For example, we're doing Peter Pan right now, and there are second company dancers who are dancing the equivalent of some company members right now. And that, I think, is a good sign for them to want to stay and hopefully be hired in the next year. However, if that's not the case for you, that's okay, but then you deserve to be somewhere where you are being used. So as opposed to waiting it out one more year and potentially being discouraged, I think it's worth the risk of switching in that case.
So this one was all one question. So we kind of broke it up into 3 different parts. Similar thing. So you were in a trainee program. and then you were doing another one. You were actually at a paid second company position. Then you went back and got trainee program offers. When you're doing that, although scholarship is a better sign for trainee programs, if you do think this company is a good fit, it's totally okay to take an extra year at trainee. Again, as we were talking about earlier, having that extra year of training does not hurt at all. It could actually pay off, and it will not reflect poorly on the CV.
Especially because so many companies interchange trainee, second company, even apprentice sometimes within the roles of their company. So just because it's an unpaid traineeship, the person looking at your resume doesn't necessarily know that.
And so submitting for smaller companies in the 1 to 3 million revenue area, I wouldn't call those necessarily small. Those are definitely just like the mid-sized ones, but that's definitely good. You should definitely send your stuff there. It does not hurt. And getting professional experience looks great on your resume, and you may find that you really love it there.
Yeah.
And then should you aim for partial weeks at a summer intensive with hopes of gaining a second company offer? Well, companies have a track record of this. Yes, most companies do this as the main way to get into their trainee or second company program. So definitely go for it. Try and have a backup if you can, but you can check on the websites to ensure that offers are made during the summer. And again, most places do this. Try and reach out to the company or second company director beforehand to chat with them about it. Some examples are Carolina Ballet, City Ballet of San Diego, Ballet Rhode Island, and more. One thing to consider, though, is the partial weeks issue. Make sure that they don't require you to be at the whole summer intensive to get that offer. Some places do that. So make sure it's okay that you can only come for X amount of weeks before getting that offer.
And one of the perks of going to multiple partial weeks is that's even more connections that you're making as you're going to all these different places. There may be a bit of a financial burden in that scenario, but that's 3 more opportunities for you to be seen and to be involved and immersed in this culture than you would have otherwise.
So like my pathway is I did that for Houston for the academy, and I ended up getting into the Houston Academy through the summer audition. I went to the full 6 weeks there. That was great. Then the next year I went to Ballet West in the summer and PNB in the summer, trying to get both. Auditioning for trainee at Ballet West and PD at PNB. I did 3 weeks at Ballet West instead of the full 5-week program. And I can honestly say they didn't quite like that. I think I got away with it, ultimately being a male dancer. Unfortunately, that's sometimes the way the world works, but they actually did not like that at all. But thankfully, I still got the trainee offer there. And then PNB, I didn't get in to the PD program. So I was lucky to have that backup already in place.
That's good to note.
Yeah. Then. So definitely try and get multiple in if you can. So are you able to shed light on how to know if a U.S. company can employ international students? And particularly an Australian dancer looking for that first contract upon graduation. So most should say on application forms, but you can also look at the roster to see if there are dancers from abroad. You can also reach out to the company. Smaller companies sometimes struggle with this, but then there are also some smaller companies that are visa farms like Atlantic City Ballet. So it does change very, very quickly from year to year. So just keep an eye out for that. One company that might have done it the previous year might not be able to do it this current year. So just make sure to reach out and look at the rosters and all of that. Also, having insights on getting into the UK and Europe for Australian students. I actually know a lot of Australians who got into European companies, and it's similar. Send your video, go about the audition process like normal, but include your citizenship and visa status. Look at the companies who have hired Australian dancers, but also because it's such a long trip for you, we recommend planning a longer trip and audition tour. Europe is actually more friendly to drop in classes, so you can get a lot of classes in 1 or 2 weeks. We actually had a friend who just did this. You want to check out? It's called the Call It What It Is podcast, but you want to talk about that?
Yeah, our good friend Juliana, she just went abroad for, I think, 2 weeks, and it's on her latest podcast episode this past week and the week before, and she dives into all the places that she attended. She doesn't necessarily name every company, but every city that she went to, her travel tips. And that's really was just insightful for me since I have not done that. And I just thought that was really wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, check them out.
Yeah. So planning a longer tour can be a good way to do it.
Just wanted to reiterate as well how important it is for you to be very candid about your visa status when you're sending out your materials, just so that you don't waste any time or money when you find out after the fact that actually they aren't able to help you in that regard.
Yeah. When we were at National Master Audition, there are some who are looking specifically for international students because they're like, oh yeah, we can actually help support them. We're here. And then there were other companies that were like, I can't unfortunately do this. And they were pretty candid about that from the get-go. So definitely say that right from the start. So what companies are truly looking to hire? And I've been told by a lot of people that I have an amazing performance quality, and in auditions, I've been told just dance on stage, but you've been told that you're not what they're looking for. And you want to know how to become what they want. So first off, don't become what they want. Be you. When they say that you're not what they're looking for, that's not a detriment to you at all. A lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. You know, you might just have been third in line for something and that first person accepted it, and that is totally okay. There's no detriment for you. You keep auditioning and you will find success. So way to improve upon that, though, is to play to your strengths. Directors generally typecast. If they have a role that's coming up with someone with big extensions, they might be looking for that. So show off. If you have that, really try and show that off. If your strength is jumps, show off your amazing jumps or your amazing turns or all of that stuff. Really show them that you know who you are and you know not only what you're good at, but what you need to work on. And then the director will find that as a good mold to work with. Some other things to augment your dancing in auditions is musicality. Our director loves to talk about the and one, the one, and the one and of a beat. If you are super on your leg, you can hold something past the count and then quickly transition into the next step. And that's still staying on the music and actually showing a lot of maturity in your dancing. It also shows an attention to detail and dynamics, right? You don't want to just dance completely on the count for everything, right? Show moments of softness, moments of power, show that you are a versatile dancer who can really play with the music. Stylize and show your personality in things. Of course, adapt quickly, take any corrections that they have, or if you pick up on any specific stylization things like a straight back leg or certain way they do the port de bras or head, try and adapt quickly with that and show them that you're a good fit for their company. But again, a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time.
Ultimately, with you saying that you perform well in auditions and like performing, do not take that away from your upcoming auditions. That is a wonderful asset that we want people to be doing in these auditions. These are just little ways for you to enhance that performance quality by focusing on musicality, by looking more into the details, just to see if that helps you. But yes, be confident in who you are, and that will be the most attractive quality. Trying to become who the company wants, I say, stay clear of that.
We have some videos on our social media right now of this one dancer at National Master Audition, number 42, who just blew us away. And she didn't have perfect technique or perfect legs and feet at all. And maybe if you just watched her from the waist down at bar, you know, you might have passed on. But the way she carried herself, the way she presented herself, and the way she did repertoire by switching up the musicality of the dynamics, it was just mind-blowing. And everyone was super interested in her from that performance quality that she brought to the stage. So definitely keep performing. So which companies still have auditions? Oh, and going back, she still had great technique, like flawless technique, like no detriment to her whatsoever. I don't want to make it sound like that. Like, but just the way that she carried herself was just mind-blowingly good. Which companies still have auditions? So we have a lot on BalletScout right now. Some quick examples are Northwest Arkansas Ballet Theater on April 25th, Oklahoma City Ballet on April 27th.
Those are in person.
In person, auditions. Yeah. Ballet Melange, you can send a video. They are a newer company. They have 4 paid company spots available right now, actually. And they're even providing housing stipends for people moving out to Denver because they know it's hard to live there. So that's a pretty sweet gig. Again, a newer company, but I think it has a lot of potential and it's been growing in the past few years. And again, there's a lot more on BalletScout. You can even get over 50% off a premium subscription right now if you're interested in doing some deep search. So I think I can go over to BalletScout and let's just do a quick look at everything. So the way I like to do it is you can go to auditions and then you can select full-time jobs. And let's just go recorded for now because, you know, everyone's in different locations. So these are just videos that you can send. Alrighty. So yeah, we've got all of these different company auditions coming up. Super quick and easy. You can just favorite them.
A lot of them through the end of April.
Yeah, even through the end of April. It's a lot coming up. Yeah, and then these ones, so those are the ones that have specific due dates. These ones are rolling auditions, so they're just up on their website with no specified due date. You can check those out later. If you're interested in learning more, you can click on it. You can go directly to the website. Boom. Or you can go to their organization page on BalletScout and check out more that they offer. Oh, they got some year-round trainee second company programs. And if you go to your favorites and compare, you've got all the ones that you saved to check back on later. So hopefully that helps some of you in your search. And now that was it from the questions that were submitted beforehand. So now we're going to get into any more of the questions.
I have one here that was submitted through the form. Should I start with that?
Yes. Yeah, let's start with that.
Okay. I auditioned for a company back in January. They wanted me to start immediately, but I wasn't able to do so. The director told me to come back and audition again closer to April to be considered for the upcoming season. He also told me multiple times to come back and take class anytime I was in the area. I have now emailed him 3 separate times, all a few weeks apart, trying to schedule a time to come in, and he hasn't answered. At what point do I give up? He gave me his phone number also, so is it creepy to just call him? If he gave you his phone number, that is not creepy to call him. If you retained it through other means, I don't think that would necessarily be appropriate. But if he openly gave his phone number, I think try that one more time. And then I just hate to hear that they're not being communicative.
Or call the company and try and get in communication with the company manager or someone who can help remind them. You know, the unresponsive director is a tale as old as time. You know, they are super busy and it's just hard to get email responses from them in general. So I wouldn't read too much into that and keep trying to message them. You know, don't spam them with emails, but yeah, maybe give it one more call. If that doesn't go through, maybe contact the company director or the company manager, see if they can get a reminder or some, you know, confirmation from them just in a passing comment, and then go from there.
Yes.
But yeah, it's always hard to do that. Next one.
Are there any companies still accepting audition videos or in person?
Lots.
That was a few that we listed at the end there, and you can find more on BalletScout.
Yep. So any info on Lexington Ballet? They just fired the artistic director and company apparently all quit, but now they're auditioning. Is it worth auditioning or is it too much drama to consider? We have heard some insider stuff that there's a lot of drama going on there right now. That's not to say don't audition. Like we don't know for sure. Like I haven't been there and personally seen anything, but generally that's not the best sign.
If it's anything like a Dallas Black situation, then it may be better to stay clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know all the information about it.
Generally though, that's not a good sign. So I would, as a last ditch effort maybe, but otherwise I would maybe stay away from it. Do companies ever do virtual auditions, trying to come back and forth from in Europe doing the tour? Yeah, some do virtual auditions. It's harder for company class specifically. It's more likely for a trainee or second company. We can actually check if we have any virtuals on BalletScout right now. Oh, I exited out of it, but let's go back and let's see. Let's see. So we're going to do virtual and full-time jobs. I don't think. Oh, yes. All right. You got 2. You got, or just one place. One place does. That is
Mhm.
Hoffice Schechter Company has a live virtual audition, but the pre-registration date is coming up soon. So if you're interested in that, I would apply for that. But otherwise, no, that's pretty rare for actual company auditions. If you're looking at post high school, like trainee second company, there might be some more. Let's see. Yeah, there's a few more. Victoria Academy of Ballet and Akhmedova do the live virtual auditions. Also, it doesn't hurt to email. These are just the ones that are publicized. It doesn't hurt to email and ask that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You might be able to figure that out. Awesome. Good questions, everybody. Is there ideal way or timeline to try and take company class instead of a large audition? Yes, definitely send your video and see if you get a response at all. If you do get a good response, they'll hopefully tell you to come take a company class. But the general step is sending your video first.
Yes. As far as the timeline goes, if you were given a company class earlier in the season, let's say January or February, then that's definitely not a bad sign whatsoever. I would just follow up if you haven't heard from them. One thing that is great though is if you're receiving one now, is that companies should have a very clear idea of what's even available for them to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that level of clarity is nice going in the later chunk of time here.
Yeah, definitely. So what if you accept a trainee contract, but then get offered an apprenticeship after the fact? How do you deal with that situation? I would take the apprenticeship if I were you, as long as it's like an actual paid apprenticeship or a better one. Be honest with the company that you have the training contract, tell them the situation, and 99% of the time they should be completely understanding. And if they're not, that might not be a place you want to go be a trainee at.
Yeah, that's true. I think if the apprenticeship is A, paid, and B, somewhere that you really would like to progress at, then it is absolutely worth taking. Going to the trainee, even asking to do like a Zoom call with them, as opposed, otherwise, a thoroughly written email works great. Just explaining the situation, people have to be understanding. You would hope that someone would want to see you succeed and grow. And especially if that's a paid position, you would think that they would be happy for you. So the only thing that may happen is if it was a paying trade where you have to pay trainee position, you may be out a stipend.
Yes.
Or a down chunk of
money.
Yeah.
You might, if you had put a down payment, you'll probably lose out on that. But again, it's probably worth it to take the
down
better
payment. What's the
down payment.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll probably have to
Deposit.
There you go.
There
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Do you know how much acceptance through the Valley Rhode Island Company Rep Workshop? I can't give you direct numbers off the top of my head, but I do think they actually take from it quite a lot. They wanted us to really harp that this year. They were saying, we're really looking for trainee and second company people or studio company people through the Rep Workshop.
I have one friend who is currently a company dancer there and two other friends that danced in their trainee program. And I know all of them were hired in through the Rep Workshop.
Perfect.
So I definitely think that is a great way for you to be seen and filter through the company there.
Yeah. All right. That's good to know. Yeah, that's perfect. I'll be at a summer program with a company I really want to be a part of this summer, but I can only do 4 weeks with them, roughly over a month off my part-time job. Would have issue with me not doing the whole summer. Should I push with my boss to let me have more time off so I can do the whole summer? I just got the job and leaving a bed. That's a tough question. Most of the time they should be okay with that. It just depends on the company and what you're going for. If you are going for a trainee or a second company program through that summer, again, I would recommend trying to do the full summer if possible. But if you're just going for the summer intensive, should be totally fine. Have a candid conversation with them and try and get their opinion on it. Be honest about, finances and all that. They should be understanding about that. You have any more to say on that?
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to gather I'm guessing the part-time job is not ballet
That's what I'm
related.
guessing. Yeah.
So then I think that's tough, but yeah, I agree with what you said.
Yeah. I would try and do the full summer if you can. But again, if you're not going for a trainee program at all, then totally fine. Don't need to do the full summer. But again, just try and talk with them. I know like at Nevada Ballet, they pretty much require you to come to the full summer to get an offer. And several other places might do that. So, and like my experience with Ballet West, I was able to not go for the full summer, but they weren't quite happy about that. Some other places might be more chill. Just try and feel it out. Try and have a candid conversation with the directors.
With the part-time job too, it will be tough. It may not be the best look necessarily if you have to ask for a lot of time off. They may let you go if you're asking for the whole summer off, but if this ultimately leads you to a better opportunity, then it's worth the risk of letting go of that connection for the time being.
Yeah. So how old is too old for a trainee program? I wouldn't say there's a specific age cap on it at all. You know, it just really depends on where you're at with your training and your pathway. Some people get into trainee programs after college and then they work their way up the ladder from there. So I wouldn't be able to put a specific age on it.
I don't think that you should be in your 30s per
No.
se
Yeah,
going into a trainee program, but also it's if that's what's offered to you and that is something that you think you could benefit from, I think it's really important to see what you want out of a trainee program and see the trends, if you can, of that company and how their trainee program is helping their students there. If this trainee program is getting people jobs and getting people jobs within the company and outside of the company, then yeah, there's no need to have an age cap on that because that will just help you.
Yeah. I would say start like 25, 26. You should definitely be trying to aim for an actual professional experience, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, were there any more responses to the form, Kami? Let's see, any other questions?
Yeah, that was it on the form.
That's it on the form.
These have all been
great questions, everyone. Really appreciate it. One more question. Following up your point earlier, is it common for dancers who have paid to have to train again? Sometimes, yes. A lot of the times dancers want to keep training and finding any way they can to improve. It's not too common to go. It's not necessarily seen as going backwards. It's more of like seen as like taking a gap year or something. But I wouldn't. It's not the most common thing, especially if you've been in it for more than a year. But if you've just been in a company for a year or some sort of paid position, then that's not out of the question at all.
I think it is very situational.
Yeah.
It's if you're able to continue your training in a summer situation, then I think that's probably the best case scenario to further your training after having a paid position. I would see it being potentially more situational with an injury. Let's say you had a paid position, but then were injured and it took more time for you to get back. Then I think that's a completely understandable, reason to go back and train.
You continue to train on it. I have nowhere to go. I attended.
There's one above too.
Oh, thank you. Is it more beneficial to stay at a top 10 company trainee program, great training, or go to the regional company training program? Well, you have to be really honest with yourself and where you are at and where you look like you compare to the company. Sometimes a top 10 trainee program will not give you necessarily better training than a smaller regional company trainee program. As long as they have good teachers and good placement, they're probably going to be about even. The resume bump might be a little boost. And again, if there is the potential to get into the top 10 company, but at the same time, it's much more competitive. So if you like the regional company and you do think you might fit in there better, then you probably do have a better chance of getting a contract there.
Yeah, I think if, let's say, for example, San Francisco Ballet has an incredible trainee program. They are someone who would set you up really well for a career, regardless if that's in San Francisco Ballet. They also are so well connected that they have the resources to get you a job elsewhere, I would go to say. If that's what your goal is, then I think staying in those more like top 10 companies is great. However, if you are just like wanting to dance wherever and it doesn't have to be in one of those big companies, then I think a regional trainee program has so many benefits in the fact that if it's a smaller, class size, you'll get so much more intensive training and focus and dedication towards your growth than necessarily in a big group of people.
All that being said, you do say you are currently at a top 10 company trainee program. I would honestly recommend sticking that out for 2 years, right? You do your first year, second year, and then after that, you do a full-on company audition tour, right? So you're coming from this top 10 trainee program. Companies are understandable that you didn't get in. That's totally fine, totally normal. If you don't. And then you can have a better shot at getting into companies. And if not, again, it's totally fine to do another trainee program, maybe at the smaller regional place with a better shot of getting in there, if that makes sense. So maybe stick it out and then do your full company audition tour that second year. Even if you think you have a chance, do the auditions. That's one thing you definitely got to do. Even if you think you have a chance at getting in, still do a serious audition season and make sure you have backups.
They just said they were wondering if 2 years is better. And I think 2 years is great.
Years. Yeah, 2 years is good. Yeah, I would try and stick with the 2 years there. Unless it's like really not a good fit for you. If you're not enjoying it, you really don't see yourself in the program, then get out of there. But if you do feel like you're getting better, you're making improvement, you're getting good opportunities, and it's building your resume, then 2 years is good. I attended multiple auditions this year, one being NMA, and thought all went very well, but I haven't received much more than a few tuition-based training programs. SI acceptances, the option. Having to train on my own. I would just keep emailing places and see if you can get some scholarships or financial aid. Be candid about your situation. Be like, I'm really interested in your program. I want to come. I don't know if this will work out financially. Is there any way that, I could, get a scholarship or provide something extra?
Since this was a direct to you, can we reiterate what the question was?
Oh, sorry.
I just wondering if there are any tips on how to make most of the time and continue training on their own if they have nowhere to go for the upcoming season.
Yeah. The other thing that you can do is you can still go to a paid trainee program and find a way to get a part-time job in the schedule to help financially cover that. I know a lot of people here do that. In fact, a lot of dancers in general have to have part-time jobs. There's also lots of gig work you can do, just reaching out to different places that might need supplemental dancers to find paid opportunities.
Yeah, I think if you choose to train on your own for the next year, definitely look at networking for gig work and try and cross train when you can so that it helps, fill in the gap of as if you were, in full rehearsal days. Maybe you go to a Pilates class on top of going to a ballet class, or maybe you go swimming that day, or whatever it is that feels best to you. So then you still get that feeling of training and replicating it the best that you can when you don't have those rehearsals necessarily.
Yeah. I would also, try and reach out to some of the NMA places again. Like Ballet Melange is really looking for people still. So, and they have like a stipended second company and the paid company. So see if you can get into one of those, and talk to them about scholarships, all that kind of stuff. Really just keep emailing, keep sending your stuff out, and try and find a place to be at. Even if it's a smaller place, like you want to have some place that's building your resume if possible and getting you some extra opportunities instead of just training on your own just yet. Not to say it's not possible at all, but I would try and find a place if you can. Is a collegiate ballet program viewed as equivalent to a pre-pro level or a trainee level finishing? Not at all. So collegiate programs have become increasingly more viable. I would say it's considered closer to a second company now, actually.
As someone who went through a collegiate program, I can say that, yes, I still feel like there is improvement within how companies view collegiate dancers. But for going through a program like Indiana University, it was absolutely run like a company. And I feel like I gained 4 years of company level experience by attending that program and then also gaining a degree. So you are not viewed as too old as long as you are coming in with an incredible resume, great connections, you're proving that you're at that professional level, then I don't see there being an issue at all.
I've seen many professional dancers from Indiana University, Butler Ballet, University of Utah, the one in University of Oklahoma. UNCSA has placed a lot recently. CCM. Yeah, CCM. Yeah, the Carolina or Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. Texas, TCU, Texas Christian. I've seen people at
SMU.
SMU. Yeah, lots of SMU. So it's becoming very viable. So I would say it's closer to a trainee or second company program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Are there any more questions before we wrap up here?
These are all so good.
Yeah, these are great. Got some more. If the goal is to dance at a larger company, more classical art is better for able to trainee at a larger company, or go to a smaller company with to get a second company paid position. It is harder. I would say if you're really bent on getting into the larger company, the trainee is a better bet, but then you can have the second company paid position as your next step after that trainee program, if that makes sense. So you can go to the trainee, try it out, give it a year or two, if you're getting good roles, as we talked about earlier, and try and stick it out for the second year, and then move on to the smaller company if that doesn't work out.
Especially if the larger company is doing rep that you really resonate with, you'll just enjoy your time more initially, being able to be immersed in that process. Whereas the smaller second company can be a great alternative if it doesn't work out at the first place. Mm-hmm. But I think we all want to enjoy what we dance. We don't always get that luxury, but ideally that will just help your situation, I think.
Yeah. Is it possible to re-audition for a main or second company position if I was only accepted into that company's training programs? Yes, I would say for some you can definitely re-audition, especially if it was very early on in the season. Think you might have gotten a lot better. And again, for those specific ones that I think we were talking about earlier, you can send your stuff again and be like, the only way I could make this work really is, coming out for this. Would you be able to consider me for said company positions?
Yeah, if it's for the same year, I would follow up and see if they have any of those spots available just to inquire about. But otherwise, that may be more of a conversation to be had next season. Mm-hmm. But it can't hurt to ask.
Yeah. Awesome. Any more questions? Any more questions? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate you coming on here today. We'll send out a video recording and feel free to reach out to us. If you'd like to support BalletScout, we have our deal right now for all the $39 for year round. So that'll help you for this audition season and next audition season. We're building some really cool technology right now that I think will really help everyone in their search. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. So.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram or email, whatever works best to you. We'll try and get you connected.
Yeah. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.